Hello, and welcome to the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation's Town Hall, Empowering Families to Engage with the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation community. My name is Heather Held, and I am the National Family Support Programs Manager for the PBTF. We are honored to have you joining us today for a fun and informative conversation. But before we get into today's program, I have a few guidelines to review. You are all muted right now for this town hall, and we ask that you please stay this way. But we do welcome any questions during and after the program through the chat feature at the bottom of your Zoom window. We will not get to every question today, unfortunately, but we will try to get to as many as possible. In the next 48 hours, you will receive a copy of today's slides, complete with the links to access the information you need and the information shared tonight. So don't worry about taking detailed notes. You're going to get these slides. Today, we invite you to discover the many ways that you can participate in the PBTF community. Volunteers and families from around the country have come together to share a variety of ways that they engage with the PBTF and why it is so important to them on their journeys. You will hear from families about programs and resources that have helped them every step of the way. You will hear from a social worker about why she refers families to the PBTF. You will hear from volunteers, you'll hear from staff about how sharing your journeys, you, the families, helps inspire us to fight every day for a world without brain tumors. And you will also hear from families who fundraise today for a better tomorrow for their children and those yet to come. Our hope is that this conversation will empower you to engage with us in new and meaningful ways, and that you will discover that the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation is more than a single event, a single program, or a single moment. We are a thriving community of individuals, all with the same mission to care, cure, thrive. And we're inviting you to join us on that mission. So I thank you for taking the time to join us today. I want you to sit back, relax, listen to what everyone has to say, and we're going to start with someone from your community. I'd like to introduce tonight star mom, Amy Pena. Amy's daughter, Sophia, was diagnosed in 2008 with a medulloblastoma. And through her time with the PBTF, Amy and Sophia have attended camps in California, accessed the Survivorship Resource Guidebook, and Amy is a peer mentor in our peer-to-peer mentor program. It is my pleasure to introduce to you tonight, Amy Pena.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Heather. So first, I want to apologize in advance if you see me looking over. I have a few guidelines for myself because there's some things I wanted to make sure to cover. As Heather said, my name's Amy Pena, and I live in Raleigh with my husband, Zeb, and we have a 19-year-old son, Reese, and Sophia, she's about to be 16. So that's good stuff. As Heather said, Sophia was diagnosed in 2008 for anaplastic medulloblastoma. She underwent surgery at Cedars-Sinai, and she received care at Children's Hospital Los Angeles, doing Head Start 3. And at Children's Hospital Los Angeles is where I met Kathy Riley, who was with We Can, and that was my entree into really the PBTF world today. You know, we're many years out, and many MRIs out, and blood draws, and all kinds of, you know, appointments and ologists, as I like to call them. She has all her ologists. I found myself wanting to be connected, and I was not connected. We lived in Santa Barbara at the time. We moved to Raleigh later on, and I just felt very disconnected from the brain tumor world. So I reached out to Kathy, and she really got me into PBTF and helped me find a place. And there's two things that, well, there's actually right now there's two ways I'm involved with PBTF right now. And the first is I am a peer-to-peer mentor, and that's been fantastic. I'm also involved with the Family Support Advisory Council, and that's been great. And it's just been a really great experience and wonderful to get to know everybody and share in a very open and safe place and connect with other people. You know, I find myself connecting outside of the PBTF with other parents who may have had a child who has had a life-threatening illness or diagnosed with cancer, but not specifically a brain tumor. So for me, this community has really been a way to connect and feel like I'm not alone. And I know everyone knows what that feels like, and it's nice to know you're not the only one. So there are a lot of things that I've utilized as we, you know, kind of were involved and got more involved with PBTF, and certainly there's the Start Folio notebook and the survivorship resource guide that Heather mentioned. Those have all been great resources, and there's so much more that I haven't even explored on the website that I feel like I've barely tapped into the wealth of resources and support that is available to families. So I encourage you to go to the website and really look around and explore and take advantage of those offerings, because they are really helpful and they're there to help you. So this community has meant a lot to me because it's given me a place. So with that, I want to jump into the peer-to-peer program and kind of what it means to me. And I think it started as an immediate help to want to help other people. And as I was matched with folks and we talked, I realized, and I actually was talking to a friend, and she brought this up, and it didn't even occur to me. And I realized, and she helped me realize that by helping other people, yes, I'm helping somebody immediately, but I think that the idea that you're helping somebody immediately, that down the road is going to potentially have long-lasting benefits for you and the other family, so that other family might end up being a mentor in the peer-to-peer program and help another family. So I think this idea of sort of paying it forward, I didn't even know I was doing, and I wasn't intending to do that. I just wanted to connect with other families and to help them not feel alone. So I remember when Sophia was diagnosed, it was tough because everybody wanted to understand, but they really couldn't. And that was hard. And connecting with other people is really important, and just knowing you're not alone. So in fact, I just had somebody tell me the other day that I've had several people call me, hey, can you talk to this family outside of the PBTF peer-to-peer program? So I find myself wanting to give back and do that. But the peer-to-peer's been really great, and it has so much value for myself and for the other families. So again, it's a safe place, and I've really, really thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm open to questions at the end, and thanks, Heather, for letting me speak. I hope I expressed my views on PBTF, which I can't say enough good things about. So I'm going to turn it back over to Heather.
Thank you, Amy. I appreciate you sharing a little bit about Sophia and a little bit about what the PBTF means to your family tonight. Specifically, you advocating as a parent through being a support to other parents in the peer-to-peer program. That's so important. I'd like to introduce to everyone now Sarah Champlin. Sarah is the neuro-oncology social worker, one of 3 at the Aflac Cancer and Blood Disorder Center at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. And she's going to talk about a little bit about her volunteer time with the PBTF, and also why she thinks it's so important to connect families in their journeys to the PBTF. So Sarah, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Right. Well, thank you so much for having me here tonight. It's truly an honor. I think in my time collaborating with you and with Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation, I have been amazed over and over again by the very deep, meaningful impact that this foundation can have on many of our patients and families. And saying that, it was actually fairly difficult to narrow this down and try to come up with just a few highlights of resources and tools that I've seen the PBTF provide to our patients and families. I decided to focus on kind of 3 main areas of support for tonight, but I could probably go on and on for quite a while. So I think 3 main areas that can be important for families are organization, information, and community. So in terms of organization, oftentimes I'm meeting families when they're newly diagnosed with a brain tumor and they are in this period of information overload. And so having a Starfolio, being able to refer them to this concrete tool that can kind of help them organize the information they're getting, review some of the education on their own time, on their own pace, and having really just a way to process and handle the overload of handouts and educational materials we love to provide families with in the beginning when they're feeling very overwhelmed has been very helpful. I actually recently was working with a mother who is like me. Even though we live in this electronic world, she really likes the good old fashioned pen and paper when it comes to staying organized, keeping track of things. So she carries her Starfolio with her to pretty much every appointment she has. And as the doctor was reviewing an MRI result and mom was asking a really thoughtful question and specific about a comparison to a previous scan from a year before, the doctor was turning to pull up that report to look at the specifics, and mom was able to just flip to that part of her Starfolio, pull out the report, give it to the doctor before she had even logged into the computer. And I loved that because it's such an example of how a resource like the Starfolio can really empower a parent to be a parent advocate, and was also a really nice reminder for the doctor about the power of a parent advocate and the tools that they can utilize as they journey with their child through this, medical world. Information, I think webinars like this are an excellent resource for our families, and I really appreciate being able to refer families to the video learning series on the website. There's a lot of information out there on the web. It's very overwhelming when you get on Google and start to try and search through all of that. So having a place where I can refer families as a starting point to kind of hit on some of those hot topics, be it targeted therapies, clinical trials, support for siblings, things of that nature, information that they can access whenever and wherever they want or need it at their own speed. It's been incredibly valuable. And hand in hand with that, I think the Imaginary Friend Society is possibly one of my favorite tools that you guys are able to provide and that I can refer families to. These are videos and a web page that you can interact with on your own time, again, wherever, whenever. I think when you're outside of the hospital or the clinic setting and you don't necessarily have your child life specialist on hand to start and navigate some of those difficult conversations, this can be a great tool for kids that's entertaining and effective to address some of those questions in a way that's appropriate for them. And then finally, just thinking about that sense of community. I'm so glad Amy spoke to the peer-to-peer mentoring program. I think that's probably the #1 question I receive from families at some point in their journey is the desire to connect with another parent or caregiver who has a child who's been through a similar treatment or process that their child is facing. And so having that as a resource to refer families to foster that sense of connection has been invaluable. I think we are blessed, many families are blessed with the support of their loved ones, their family, their friends, their community, but being able to connect with a parent who has walked that walk and stood in their exact shoes that can relate to you on a level that even as a social worker, other people just can't. It's amazing. And then of course, going along with that would be encouraging families to attend different events. I've had the opportunity to attend things like the family picnic, fashion shows, and to volunteer at Starry Night here in Atlanta for the last couple of years. And it's been amazing to me to watch the community, the companionship that these families are able to develop and foster. They meet each other at different points in their journeys, and it's really provided a nice perspective for me, and a good reminder that at the heart of all of this is a child and a family, rather than just a brain tumor or a diagnosis. So as I mentioned earlier, difficult to narrow down and to only highlight a few. But I just want to take time to appreciate all the resources you provide to families. And I particularly want to acknowledge that PBTF provides families whatever it is they need, whenever it is they need that, at any point in that journey from diagnosis and beyond. So thank you very much for having me tonight.
Wow, Sarah, I don't even think I can follow that up. You so succinctly put into words our programs and our resources, and really talked about the heart of the work that we do for our families. So thank you very, very much. This next slide that is coming up, you have heard both Amy and Sarah speak to most of the things on this slide. So I'm not going to go into it. Again, I'm going to say that these slides will come to you in the next 48 hours, but most of this was touched on already. And we really do pride ourselves in the care of our 3 pillars, Care.Cure.Thrive, and our family support is that care in the community. So the family support team, though, is just one part of a much larger community here at the PBTF. So I'm going to introduce to you tonight my colleague, Bob McNamara. He is our Director of Fundraising and Community Engagement. And Bob's team works with families through a variety of our fundraising campaigns. And you're going to have an opportunity to hear from one of those families soon about how they engage with the PBTF community. Bob, take it over.
Thank you, Heather. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. As Heather mentioned, I am going to talk about events that the PBTF hosts, right? And most of these would be critical fundraising events that we host, but they're more than that. They actually bring families together, and it's an opportunity to connect with the larger brain tumor community and also the people that support that community. And they're also a lot of fun. So last year, all of our events were virtual activities, but we are planning on getting back to in-person events later this year as COVID allows. So hopefully we get back to normal soon and we can start having our fun events again. But rather than having me explain what all those are, we do have a short video for you that we hope captures a little bit of what our events are like. Next slide, please.
Hi, we're from Albion College lacrosse team, and we really, over the years, have made a great relationship with breast cancer, and it's been just awesome for us. I remember the first year we did it, we had guys shave heads. I actually shaved my head, grew my hair out for the event, and all the faculty on campus were asking me if there was something wrong. So it was a great awareness piece for us. Everybody thought I was sick, and it gave us just awesome talking points, and our student athletes felt the same way all over campus. It's been an incredible experience and really rewarding, and we're really proud of the work we're doing with breast cancer.
And my name is Jerry Haas. I'm a junior captain. A few years ago, we had the opportunity to have one of our teammates, Drew Harm, who's a 5th-year senior, and unfortunately, he had to undergo a couple brain tumors. But it was really awesome just to see, him fight back, and he's like one of those people that we try to emulate a lot of our program around. And to be working with Mott Hospital is really awesome to have that connection there. So.
Yeah, another opportunity we've got with working with breast cancer is this year, even with COVID situations, we're able to interact with a young person, Harper Mathis, who currently has cancers and undergoing treatment. It's been an awesome experience for us. We've been on Zoom calls with her, meeting her family, getting to know her, some of her struggles and some of her battles, and it's just been an overall awesome experience. And she's quite a courageous person, and she's inspired all of us. So we thank you, Mathis family, and Harper, you specifically, for allowing us to be a part of your journey and to be your friend. From our family to yours, go Brits! Go Brits! Go Brits!
Hey guys, my name is Ryan, aka GG Fire, and I am a streamer on Facebook Gaming. I'm also the first ambassador of the PBTF Game On program. Working with PBTF has been nothing short of an amazing experience. Their staff are all extremely friendly and passionate about helping children, and that passion is contagious. Through the Game On program, I have met many PBTF stars and played games with them on my stream. Not only is there no feeling like putting a smile on a kid's face, but there's also no feeling like raising money for such a great cause. I heavily encourage any star families out there to get involved, show that it's possible to do good deeds through video games. Not only does your involvement create an unforgettable experience for your child, but it also leads to long-lasting friendships. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mary Ann, and I became aware of this organization when my daughter Kate was in the preschool with her friend Timmy G. That is when Timmy was first diagnosed with a brain tumor. We walked alongside their family during the 18 years he lived with brain and spinal tumors. Tim and Kate attended high school together, and Tim went on to St. Louis University and studied there until his senior year. Tim died in 2018 when he was 22 years old. He was a fiercely competitive, fun-loving, smart student in college. He taught us all many lessons, but the one I always think of when I think of Tim, you do not always have control over everything that happens to you in your life, but you do have control over your attitude about it. And Tim lived with a positive attitude for the 18 years he battled with this disease. I'm on the task force for the Chicagoland Starry Night Walk. It is an event we hold for our star families and their supporters to come together as a community. We have a day filled with fun children's games, some good food, a 1-mile family walk, and a 5K run. At dusk, we hold a beautiful and powerful lantern ceremony. We light up the night sky with lanterns that honor our children who are still fighting a brain tumor and for our eternal stars that are no longer with us. The ceremony is a very hopeful ending to our Starry Night Day together. And we leave knowing we are all committed to seeing a world without brain tumors. I do this work and help with these events and raise this money for the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation in memory of our friend Timmy G, who is always in our hearts.
So thank you. We want to thank our volunteers who were part of that video. And as you heard, it wasn't just families who are involved with the PBTF. Really, it's friends of families and sometimes, in the case of Versus Cancer, complete strangers. But that's kind of our history. The Ride for Kids started over 35 years ago when Mike and Diane Trainer were friends of a family whose daughter had a brain tumor. And they were motorcycle riders, and they were passionate about motorcycle riding, and they came up with a fundraising idea utilizing motorcycles. And the Ride for Kids is now the nation's longest running and most successful motorcycle charity event in the country. And it's our principal fundraising vehicle. And this year, Ride for Kids Day will be September 12th with 24 different events across the country. And as well as a virtual model for people to get out and ride anywhere. We're so proud of this legacy that we've had with the Ride for Kids. And through this program, we have raised millions and millions of dollars over the years. And it's created this wonderful community of people who give back and come back every single year to support the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation. Next slide. We also host a Starry Night Walks. You heard about that in the video. And it's a special coming together of the brain tumor communities. This is about the families and their networks of people who come out and support these children. And they walk in teams and they share team colors and they walk for Team Abigail and Team Noah, et cetera. And they're just it's all culminated in the lantern lighting ceremony where we light blue lanterns for those children who lost their battle, yellow lanterns for children still fighting their battle, and then white for the rest of us. And it's just something that is a simple ceremony, but one that's really powerful for our families. Next slide, please. You heard from one of our Versus Cancer teams, and this is a sports fundraising program. Teams all across the country host games and fundraise for the PBTF. We have everything from Little League to professional teams supporting the PBTF through this. And basically a team decides that they're going to be a Versus Cancer team. They set a date on their schedule, and then the members of that team fundraise for the cause. And some do tremendous amounts, and some do a little bit, but together it's an army of teams that raise close to $1 million a year through this program. And in many cases, we can match a family to the team that's out there and provide a wonderful experience for that child to either sit on the bench during the game or to be announced with the team or run on the field with the team, or in this past year, even Zoom with the team and get to know them that way. Next slide, please. And Game On is one of our newest programs. And it's the video gaming world, which I don't know anything about, but there are millions of people out there who are part of this. And what we have found is that there's a lot of interaction through the streaming events and a lot of generosity through the streaming events. So content creators and gamers come together and they fundraise during these live streams. And it's their fans who end up supporting the mission. And with this program, we've also been able to engage a lot of the children where they play the game with this streamer and top gamer, and there's a lot of interplay between the children and the streamer, and it just drives a lot of activity and energy across the streaming event that day. So let me move on to the next slide, please, because I could talk about our events all day, but that's not what we're here for tonight. We really want to hear from some of the people who make this happen for us, and I'd like to introduce you to a family not unlike your own, who's been involved with the PBTF for a number of years. It's our good friends from Wisconsin, a star family and volunteer leaders, Megan and Tony Ketchbaugh.
Hello.
Hello. Our daughter Kelly was diagnosed with medulloblastoma at age 2. While she was undergoing treatment, a gentleman by the name of Joe Bent walked into the clothing store that we owned at the time and asked if he could hang a poster for the PBTF. When talking to him, it's kind of funny how your paths cross. We explained our story and told him what was going on with our daughter. And he invited us to our first Ride for Kids, and that was 14 years ago, and it was an incredible blessing.
Mind you, it pushed me to buy a motorcycle so I could be her driver for a little while.
The PBTF has been a source of comfort, strength, and hope when we needed it the most, not just for ourselves, but for our entire family. About 4 years ago, while we were at a Ride for Kids event, we were asked about becoming a volunteer, and we figured, well, of course, yes, definitely.
We'd love to help out.
And, you know, to be a part of this amazing group. Then 3 years ago, we were asked if we would take on the role as the task force leaders for the state of Wisconsin, and what an honor that was. We have made it our family's mission to give back for all the blessings that we have. Our daughter is now 15 years cancer-free, a high school graduate, a full-time caregiver at an assisted living center, and still, at the age of 19, she counts down the days to the next Ride for Kids event. We want to raise enough money so that funding can be made, so that no other family has to hear your child has a brain tumor. We've been very successful with many different events. We have held garage sales, brake sales. We've done guest bartender roles at local bars. We've put out numerous donation jars, raffle baskets. We've done Scoopy Night at Culver's, bike nights. This year, we're looking to do a few new events, a corn toss event at 4th of July event, and golf welding. We've also done corner signs, sponsorship signs for our ride. And it's just amazing to get the support from your community and local communities around you, just to bring awareness to the PBTF and raise money for an amazing cause.
Thank you, Megan and Tony. You guys really embody that volunteer spirit, and you list off some of the things that you do. And it's not just obviously them doing it. They have a whole army of people that support them. It's their friends, it's their family, it's their Kelly's grandparents, right? Everybody's involved in their community. And it's really neat to see, because whether it's a small thing like they talked about, bags or cornhole or corn toss, depending on what part of the state you're in, or the country that you call that game. Whether it's a small tournament like that, or whether it's the actual Ride for Kids event, they're just constantly trying to find new ways to raise money for the cause and to give back. And I think that's what's really special about their relationship, both to the community and to us. So just to close out, thank you, Cynthia. There are a number of ways you can get involved with PBTF events, right? So you can come and participate in a Ride for Kids or a Starry Night, or get hooked up with a Versus Cancer team or one of our streaming events, and experience the event as a participant and as a STAR family, and learn more about our organization that way. Of course, you can volunteer, right? And it doesn't just have to be you who can volunteer. As you heard on the video, Marianne is a neighbor of somebody, right? Our founders were friends and neighbors of somebody. So oftentimes it's that person or people who constantly say, hey, let me know what I can do to help. Well, here's a way that they can help. They can volunteer with us. And you can fundraise. You can bring your team and your network and your community together to help take a bite out of this fight that we're in, right? And give back to our mission. Recruit others to help. Again, your family, your friends, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles. Most of those people end up being some of the biggest volunteers that we have, because they care so much for you and for your child. And then lastly, you can be a champion and an advocate for our organization and for these different events. We're just here to serve the mission and drive things forward, but it's really your experience through these events that make these special. And when you hear what a STAR parent has to say, with this quote here on the screen about how special Brandon was made to feel by interacting on a streaming event, that's what keeps us inspired and keeps us motivated to do things. But it's really all the people coming together that drives the success. And for these particular events, we're talking about that fundraising success that allows us to keep serving our mission. But it's not just the events that we host, right? There's a lot of things that happen. Maybe some of these events aren't in your community. So what do you do then? Well, what you do then is you figure out a way to maybe come together on your own. So let me introduce you to my colleague, Emily Clark, our Director of Digital Fundraising and Engagement, who will share more ways to be part of our mission.
Thank you so much, Bob. I am so thrilled to be here with you guys this evening to share a little bit more about how families just like you who maybe don't have access to our signature opportunities are coming together across the country to build their very own communities of support. We know that many of our families experience a myriad of challenges when they hear those words, your child has a brain tumor. You've shared with us that you have feelings of isolation in your diagnosis, and that sometimes you can feel really powerless throughout this journey. And we recognize that it does take an army of champions that are willing to fight alongside you and advocate for you and wrap their arms around you guys so that you guys can thrive no matter where you are throughout this process. And those are the things that we hope that you get from our community fundraising program, and the things that we really strive to provide for you guys. So with that, we do have a very short video that I'm going to have Cynthia share with you guys. So Cynthia, can you please go ahead and hit play on that? Thank you, Cynthia. Next slide. Thank you. As you saw in the video, community fundraising events contribute greatly to our ability to invest in research and family support programs, but they do so much more than that. Across the country, we have families yearning to connect with one another in towns that we don't have a strong staff presence, or like I said, those signature events. And so these kinds of events really bring you together with other families walking a similar path. We want them to be an empowering way for you guys to be a big part of the groundbreaking research that is needed to cure this disease and help the next 13 kids that will be diagnosed tomorrow as they embark on this journey as well. So these events are really, like I said, we hope that you get so much more out of them than just fundraising. And we really believe that they're a way for you guys to come together and bring in new advocates that maybe aren't familiar with the PBTF mission or how brain tumors are affecting our community. Next slide, please, Cynthia. So we actually have 3 ways that you guys can get involved in community fundraisers. And all of our different options really serve how, when, and why you want to give back. We have opportunities that are less time commitments, but we also have opportunities that are fully engaging and really build out that strong community that we talk about in your community. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into those, though I think that the most sort of profound part of this will be our family sharing their experience with this. So go ahead and go to the next slide, Cynthia. So our first sort of option for you, which is the easiest, most cost-effective way for you to start a fundraiser, is through Facebook fundraising. You can start a Facebook fundraiser in 6 easy clicks. And best of all, this method is 100% fee-free through PBTF, which means every single penny that you guys raise in your communities through Facebook comes straight back to our mission. And this is a great way to sort of very easily share your story in a meaningful way and really galvanize your community, but also do it in a way that's really sort of time sensitive. We know that you guys have a lot going on when you are navigating treatments and things like that. So this is a great option for you. Go ahead and go into the next slide. Our second sort of medium level community fundraising opportunities are our virtual and DIY community fundraisers. We have a pre-established DIY fundraising for a Cure page out there, and we have lots of options and ideas for you to get involved through virtual fundraising and hosting some of those smaller events that raise less than $10,000. This is a really great option for families that maybe need to be extra cautious because of immunity and immune systems and things like that, and especially in a post-COVID world. And so we have a lot of families that have taken to this option in the last year to fundraise because they can do it straight from their homes, or they can do it easily with a very small community, but still have huge impact. Through this, you can also set up a custom fundraising page that tells your story. And it's really, really, really simple to do that. It's a turnkey experience for you, but you still get all the support you would need through our DIY fundraising program. So we're really excited about this. And if you have schools or youth groups or churches that want to really support your efforts, this is also a great option for them. So this one is sort of, like I said, a turnkey DIY option for you. And if you're looking for tips and tricks, you can check out some of those fundraisers through the portal. You can see what other people in your community are doing. We have a lot of head shaving going on. We have musicians who are doing concerts for us through this. So there's some really great options and opportunities that are in the virtual space or that smaller event side. And then Cynthia, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. And perhaps sort of our most larger scale community opportunity is through community events. And so we have a number of incredible community supporters, many of them families, who really take on event planning, execution, sponsorship recruitment, and they build out these like massive community inclusive events. And these are really, really great. If you live in a city that doesn't have a Starry Night or Ride for Kids, but you know you have a lot of families that you want to bring together, these are really great opportunities to do that. Usually these events are the ones that bring in $10,000 or more. And with that, we create a custom page for you that's designed solely to your needs and wants and what your event is. And we really build out a registration portal for this. And we have families that get so creative with this. We do a lot of golf tournaments. Prior to COVID, we actually had a family that we were doing a PBTF cruise with. She worked at a travel agency, so we were going to have a PBTF cruise, and that was really exciting for us. We have an annual truck driving contest, and there's actually a really fun one in Alabama that's an ATV outdoor family event. And actually the dads and the men get in Barbie Jeeps and race down hills together in those. So, you know, there's a lot of creativity that comes with this, but there's also a lot of pride for our fundraisers. There's a lot of looking forward to these events for other families in your community. And it's a really great way for you guys to empower yourselves and empower other families to come out and really get engaged with supporting that research and advocacy that's much needed. So with that being said, I want to introduce to you guys one of those events, Par for the Kids. It's hosted by star mom Elizabeth Testa. Par for the Kids is in its year, and it's held in honor of Elizabeth's 5-year-old son, Bennett, who is fighting a low-grade glioma. During its inaugural event, they set an initial goal of $5,000, and they actually raised more than $30,000 that first year. So they blew that out of the water. And last year during COVID, during their second year, they actually raised that and did around $35,000. So they've just done such a phenomenal job of bringing their city together. And I will say they've brought more than 400 new PBTF advocates to the table through this event alone. So I'm so honored to welcome Elizabeth Testa to the group and let her share a little bit about her experience with you guys.
Sorry, I was still muted. I want to preface this by saying that I'm outside and there's some birds that just started squawking. So please let me know if that becomes distracting, and I will try to run inside real quick. You can hear them now. So my name is Elizabeth Testa, and my husband Jason and I have 2 kids, Leah, who is 11, and Bennett, who you just heard a little bit about, who is 5. We host an annual golf tournament called Par for the Kids. And I kind of want to tell you about the story behind how that came about and what led us to decide to do a community event like this. he was diagnosed at the age of 2 with low-grade glioma. His is like a diffuse glioma, so kind of like a grade 2 tumor. And it is low grade, but for him, it's in his thalamus, which is like right in the center of his brain. So it isn't an inoperable tumor. We initially met with his neurosurgeon and his neuro-oncologist. We're located here in Greenville, South Carolina. And, you know, they kind of left us with just sort of a feeling of being kind of dejected because they didn't give us a lot of hope for any kind of cure path forward. You know, we talked about how we could do chemo, and there was a lot of different chemo protocols, but those seemed like more of a Band-Aid, you know, and a lot of those chemo protocols have been around since like the 1970s. So based on what they had told us, the research seemed a little stagnant. So after a couple months of just sort of being in shock over his diagnosis, you know, we kind of came to terms with it, but we started to do a lot of our own research, and we realized that you know, there was actually like a lot of promising new research out there. A lot of new drugs were being developed, especially the targeted therapies, you know, that inhibit the growth of certain mutations within the tumor. And that, for the first time since his diagnosis, that kind of gave us a little bit of hope. We realized that there's a lot of things, I think somebody else alluded to this, but the fact that when you're faced with a diagnosis like this, you realize early on that so much is out of your control, but the thing we could control was how we responded. So we kind of thought about it and decided, why not host a fundraiser? So I got plugged in with Amy Weinstein, who is the I think director of research. I think she's on this, and the head of a fund called the PLGA Fund, which is a fund specifically for low-grade gliomas. I talked to her for a long time, and you know, I was just really impressed with the work that PBTF was doing in that realm, and we decided to use our fundraiser to support research through the PLGA Fund. We decided to host a golf tournament. My husband, Jason, and Bennett are both very golf obsessed people, so it was kind of a perfect fit for us. And we started planning. It was really scary at first, and I think Emily mentioned that our initial goal was like $5,000, and that seemed very out of reach. You know, it seemed like a lot of money. We weren't sure what was going to happen, but we just went for it. And immediately we're just amazed at how many businesses in our community were willing to sponsor, how many friends and family members were willing to sign up to play. A lot of people donated like $25, $50, $100, and all of that added up really fast. Yeah, we just kind of started by asking friends who had businesses kind of initially like, hey, would you be willing to sponsor? And then that kind of gave us the bravery to move beyond people we knew and to just walk into businesses that we thought would be a good fit and just ask them to sponsor. And I think the thing that amazed me is like most of the time people say yes. And even if they couldn't say yes to sponsoring, a lot of times they would offer to donate food or prizes or, you know, raffle items, that kind of thing. So just very quickly it got big, and we were kind of amazed and really felt so loved, and the community just really rallied around us. So like Emily said, that first year, we raised over $30,000. We had about 100 golfers and maybe like 20 volunteers. And then last year we were able to do it again despite COVID, because it was somewhat of a socially distant activity. We were just really careful with the hand sanitizer, and several teams, played. They each got their own golf cart and that kind of thing. So we were really lucky to still be able to hold our event with COVID. Raised again about $35,000. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of blown my mind a little bit how just in the first 2 years, it's been some effort, but we really have had the help of our friends and our family. And it's just been incredible. And I think the most important thing for us is all of this just gives us kind of like hope for Bennett's future, because chances are he's always going to have the tumor. So knowing that, once we get through those chemo protocols, like we have some other options available to us. That's really powerful for a parent. Just like really makes us feel like in a small way, we're making a difference. It's really cool to see in just the past, couple years since his diagnosis, how far some of the research has come. Some of those drugs that were still in trial when he was diagnosed are now FDA approved. So just really cool. We also have had a couple star kids play, which has been really neat to see. So if any of you are in the Southeast region and you know of a golfer who's a star kid, we would love to have them. And I just would encourage anyone who's thinking about taking the plunge to do a fundraiser like this. There's something that you're passionate about or your child is passionate about, whether it's like a home run derby or a bowling tournament or, a 5K walk, like just go for it. Every dollar really matters. And I think you'll find that just the process of planning and having the event really helps you feel like your community is behind you. So, and PBTF is also really helpful in this whole process. That, like Emily was saying, they help you build a custom website. They help build an interface for registration, and are just so helpful in every step of the way. And Heather she usually comes, and her husband has played in the tournament too. So I don't know, it's just really, really neat to see, and it's been great. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Liz. We truly appreciate you being here with us. I'm going to actually throw it back to Heather at this point. She's got some advocacy and awareness campaigns to share with you guys.
Yes, thank you, Liz. Thank you. And we will be there again this year, I'm sure. Chris has been calling a couple friends up at GE, so surprised if you see us. Advocacy. Definition of advocacy is the act or process of supporting a cause or proposal. And so many things you have said tonight are you advocating for your child, your family, your communities, and I love hearing it. Here at the PBTF, we've taken that definition one step further and created a guiding principle to our advocacy. And it's to act as a motivator and catalyst for change in order to further PBTF's mission of eliminating all childhood brain tumors and supporting patients and their families during the brain tumor journey. Joining the PBTF as an advocate is free, and it's based on your schedule, your desired amount of time, and your interests. It can be a meeting with your representative to discuss funding at the federal level. That's happened with several of our families, as well as Amy, who Elizabeth mentioned earlier, over the past week. It can be joining a working group of like-minded individuals that are focused on consistent quality of care for our pediatric brain tumor patients. Or it can be just simply sharing your child's story to inspire others to join the fight. When our community comes together to advocate, it just amplifies our voice in this disease space, and that is priceless. The PBTF is currently creating a volunteer-led advocacy committee. We are super excited about this. And the purpose of this committee is to advise and prioritize our efforts. So if this is something that interests you, you are going to see on the slides when you receive them tomorrow, contact information for Amy Weinstein. So don't worry about writing down her email. You're getting this in your inbox tomorrow. Or you can just let me know and I can connect you directly to Amy. But we're very, very excited to really grow in a direct way this part of the PBTF. All right, so you have received this evening a ton of information from a ton of people in a very short amount of time. But I do have one more thing that I want to share with you before we open the floor for questions. So today is May 4th. We are 4 days into Brain Tumor Awareness Month. And you may have received an email, or I'm sure you've seen social media posts by now showing our call to action. Pediatric brain tumors have a name and a face. And it's your child's name or your grandchild's name, or for volunteers, it's the names and faces of all the stars and eternal stars that you've met over the years. And this month, we are celebrating the resiliency of you, our families, in your fights. And we're sharing the names and faces of the children that we serve on a daily basis. And we're asking others in our community to join us and be the name that provides hope to our families as we look ahead together to our ultimate goal, world without childhood brain tumors. So you will see here that we are giving you some options to join us. If you do nothing else after you hang up tonight and you take away nothing else from this evening's presentation, I would ask that you share, whether it's on social media or through email, you share the name of pediatric brain tumors in your home with a friend or a family member. Share your child with somebody else this month in honor of Brain Tumor Awareness Month. So that being said, I'm going to ask my colleague, Dave Mays, to join me, as well as our guest speakers for this evening, the families you've heard from, and Sarah, our social worker. And we are going to do a little Q&A. We did receive some questions at registration, so we're going to start with a couple of those. But if you have any questions on anything you've heard tonight or something specific you want to ask one of the panelists or one of the staff members, go ahead and type it down into the chat at the bottom. But Dave, why don't you go ahead and throw out that first question for us?
Sounds good. Thank you, Heather.
Welcome.
Into that, I just want to say thank you to all of our STAR families that have attended tonight, and thank you to our STAR families that have participated in sharing your stories and sharing your journeys and sharing how you've gotten involved with PBTF. All of you continue to inspire me every day, not only as a PBTF staff person, but also as a parent of 2 young boys. You all inspire me every day, and I just want to say thank you for everything that you do to support PBTF. And so the first question that I have that came in before this webinar is a question that I would love to, if it's okay, start with Amy. I'm going to direct this question to you, Amy, and then I would also love to hear potentially from the Ketchpaw family as well to follow up after Amy. But the question that came in says, we are new to this world and love information. What would you tell someone just starting their journey about the PBTF community and how to engage?
That's a beautiful question.
It is a beautiful question.
So what would I tell somebody new on this journey? So first of all,
Amy, hold on just a minute. Sorry. You were speaking to the panelist, Amy Pena.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
It's so embarrassing. I'm like, why is Dave asking me?
He's not. It's okay.
So sorry.
Everyone, this is Amy Weinstein, who we mentioned.
Oh, that is
so now
so embarrassing. I am
you
so
have
sorry.
met her.
Amy Pena, where are you?
Amy Pena is right there.
I'm so sorry.
You just took the pressure off. It's okay. So after that, I'm gonna try to remember the whole question because my brain's all over the place. But I would say, you know, a good place to start to get involved, and that was the first piece of the question, correct? I really, honestly, if you don't know anybody that's involved already in the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation, well, let me back up. If you know somebody who is involved, I would say reach out to that person who's involved with the PBTF and maybe have a conversation with them, and you could ask more about their experience and, you know, things that they've, you know, the tools and resources that they've used. If you don't have anybody, I would say definitely go to the website. There's so much there. And third, maybe go to your social worker or somebody in your, if you're in treatment at the hospital, that might be able to direct you to some of the ways to get involved. But the website's a really, really great place to do that. And I apologize. I know there was a second piece to the question.
I think you did great. I think you covered it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Catchball family, I don't know if you had anything that you would like to add as far as what would you tell somebody, not only starting their journey, but you know, obviously using what you all have done and throughout your journey and continue to do. You know, how would you potentially encourage somebody to engage with PBTF and maybe just get involved, even if it's within their local community?
I don't know what to say. Amy said it best. And thank you, Amy. Find your local event in your state or nearest you. Go across the border if you have to go to another state and visit their event. Go online and find the people that you can email online. Typically, I'll run into people or hear about somebody, and I'll explain to them about the events or about the PBTF, and I'll, you know, try to see if they're even remotely interested, or at least have them go to the website, as Amy said, and contact them through the PBTF sites. We live in a small community, so I don't run into a lot of people here other than asking for money and donations.
So for us, it was best to we went to the event and, you know, networked with other families and shared stories and resources.
To add to that, I think, you know, if they're looking for just some support for newly diagnosed, the peer-to-peer mentor program is really, really wonderful, and they'll match you with a person and, you know, have somebody to talk to.
Thank you, guys. I'm going to throw this to Sarah, our social worker on here. This is similar to what Dave just asked, but for those newly diagnosed parents that have just heard Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation, what would you tell them to ask their social worker, and or how would you tell them to best connect with us? And don't say, give them my email.
That is what I do. No. I think you can, as a social worker, oftentimes when I'm meeting with families, this is a resource I'm bringing up in the beginning, because families often are looking for information. They're looking for connection. They're looking for a lot of things, a lot of answers in that time period. So it happens very organically, where I'm able to provide them with information about PBTF. If they're still in the hospital, help maybe get them to fill out a family profile form, you know, get them kind of the foot in the door to getting connected. So I think it's just a matter of asking about what local organizations, what local resources are available to you. Are they aware of how PBTF might be represented in the community? What fundraisers are out there? Most of the social workers are going to kind of have their finger on the pulse of what's going on in the community. So I think you can just be curious and ask. For example, I had a family one time come to me probably several months into it and finally say, this isn't enough. And how do we do more? How do we raise more awareness, raise money for research? Because it's making me angry that there's not more out there. And so I was able to reference the PBTF and get them connected to you guys as a source of advocacy, and kind of a way to start fundraising and getting connected with the community. So yeah, I think nobody should be afraid to come to us and ask. As social workers, we love to be problem solvers. And we're lucky that we have resources like the PBTF that can kind of help us identify those and fill in those gaps.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Another question that we had come in ahead of time, and I'll direct this question to Elizabeth, is a question that came in was, how can we spread awareness for more funding in research?
It's a good question. I think there's like a big misconception in the public in general about brain tumors. I think a lot of people think that they're just like other cancers, that there's lots of drugs available to treat them, that they're very curable, and that's just not always the case. So I think it's important to educate. For us, we've a lot of times, for Bennett's case specifically, people will say like, oh, I'm so glad his tumor is benign. And that's really hurtful because, while it's not as fast growing as other types of brain tumors, like it's still very life threatening. And so I think for us, just putting our story out there, and I know that not every family is comfortable with doing that, and I totally respect that. But, for us, I think it's just been important to continually try to educate people about brain tumors and also about the lack of funding for research for new treatments. Obviously, that's like the thing that we've latched onto specifically with our fundraising and all of that. But I think just educating people on the facts, and encouraging other people who are willing to do so to do the same thing is so important.
Thank you, Liz. I appreciate that. We had a question come into the chat. And by the way, we do have a couple minutes left. So if anyone has any pressing questions, add them to the chat at the bottom. But we had a question come in. I haven't seen details of a starry night in Houston. Do we have one in Houston? And if not, how can we start one? So Bob did go ahead and answer that already through the chat. We do not have one in Houston. I will say the beauty of Starry Night is there is opportunity for you to do it wherever you are with your own community. So I know Bob is going to reach out to you directly tomorrow, I am sure, or the next day, and connect with you on that information. Does anyone else have any questions? Anything?
Can I make a little quick statement, Heather?
Absolutely, Tony.
So just for those of you out there, you do not need to be a motorcycle rider to head up and run a Ride for Kids event. I have let's see, I have an 11-year-old motorcycle I bought with 4 miles on it and now has 7,000 miles on it, which is very low for anybody that actually rides. So people are amazed that I barely ride, and yet we have this event up here. So that's my statement.
No, I love it. Thank you for sharing that. I think that there is a place for everyone. It looks like we have one final question in here. Is there a way to find out about people already involved in PBTF in your local area? Yes, there is. So on the slides, you will receive reach out to myself or to Dave and let us know where you are. and we'll be able to let you, I would reach out to both of us. We'll be able to let you know what events might be in your area, as well as what family support programs, resources, or family events are in your area. So when you receive the slides, our emails are on there. Go ahead and just reach out to us directly. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close out this evening. First and foremost, I want to thank the families for being here today. Amy Pena, Megan, and Tony, and Liz. Your personal stories of what PBTF means to you and how you've chosen to walk with us are truly inspiring. I feel like every time I talk to a couple of you, I learn something new. I want to thank you, Sarah, for so eloquently stating what the care pillar of PBTF is and why it's important to you that brain tumor families know about the PBTF. Thank you again to all of our attendees for taking time today to learn about the ways that you can engage with us. And all of our voices on here today, the faces and the voices you've seen, you've heard, and those that are not on here, collectively, we are stronger together in this fight. So the slides you're seeing now on the screen include contact information for the family support team, the fundraising and engagement team, as well as Emily's digital engagement team. As a reminder, you're going to receive these from us, so feel free to reach out to any one of us you have heard from today on the staff, and we are happy to answer your questions and connect you where you need to go within the PBTF. We are a small but mighty foundation with a lot of voices, and we're excited to have your voices with us. So I thank you all again for attending, and have a wonderful evening.